Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Daisy Ferns, who is a lead generation expert. And in today's episode, we are going to be diving into the art of magnetic lead generation. Daisy, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to talk about lead generation. It's something I'm probably going to say obsessed with.
I love this. I love that you're obsessed with it. I'm very passionate about lead gen, and I must admit it's something that I continue to tell my clients to be doing every single day.
Yeah.
But we're going to dive into this. We're going to help all of our listeners with some lead generation tips and strategies and all the things today. But before we do that, Daisy, I think it's always really important to introduce you properly. So I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about who you are, exactly what you do, and a little bit about your story as well as to how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Daisy Ferns. I live in the East Midlands with my husband and our two children, and we're just in the process of moving, which in all honesty has been a lead generation process because we couldn't find the right house. So we were actually trying to find a house that wasn't even on the market. So life is busy, busy, busy. But as we were talking about actually just before we started recording, it's so important, isn't it, to do that lead generation. So no matter how busy things get, it is the cornerstone, it's the foundations of any business. So how I came into doing this was actually I've had multiple businesses across the last sort of 5 years or so. And over the last couple of years, I've realised that the reason they've been so successful is because I'm really good at lead generation. And I'm going to say that loud and proud. I am really good at lead generation. We're always doing ourselves down, aren't we? But you know, I'm going to shout that from the rooftops. And then people started to notice that my businesses were successful and kind of asked me for my secrets. And then they started asking me, could you do that for me as well? So just kind of almost on the side, I would take over somebody I knew lead generation for them, and we'd get amazing results. And then somebody else would say, could you do that for me as well, please? And we'd get amazing results. And it got to the point where this was becoming a really big thing. So I thought, let's go all in on this. This is such an important service. It's such an important thing for any business. So it has become my main business. And at the moment, we offer done for you services for 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs who don't have the time to be doing this lead generation themselves, who are constantly busy, who are constantly getting inquiries. But because they've not got the time to do it, they know that their leads are slipping through the net and it's costing them money. So we do done for you services, and next year 2026 is going to be very exciting because I've got lots and lots of different offers and things up our sleeves that if you're not ready for done for you lead generation, we can support you in other ways as well.
Amazing. I love this as well, and I think it's a needed talked about topic, basically, that we're talking about today, because lead generation is needed in every single business. And I think it's really important that as entrepreneurs, we have that built into our strategy one way or another. And it can look in different ways, can't it, for every business and every industry. So let's talk about lead generation. Now, I know that the majority of people listening to this will know what lead generation is, but they're probably thinking, oh gosh, I haven't done any lead generation recently, or I need to do a little bit more. That's normally the response I get from most people when I talk about lead gen. But let's start talking about lead gen and the fact that, first of all, there's a lot of noise around it. There's a lot of people talking about it, but not enough people actually doing it in a way that's going to support them. So what do you think are the sort of biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to lead generation as such?
Yeah. So I think inconsistency would be one, which we've already touched on, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of this as well. My own lead generation for my own clients, as in to get business in for my business, falls to the bottom of the pile. When you're constantly serving others and you're constantly fighting fires and responding to things as they come in, lead generation falls to the bottom of the pile. And when you're busy with clients as well, you think, oh, this is great. I've got loads of clients. I don't need any more at the moment. But then that has a knock-on effect on perhaps the next month or the next quarter. So it needs to be something that's done without fail every single day, so that you've got that pipeline full of qualified leads all of the time. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is having genuine conversations. Yeah. And this is something that's becoming more and more obvious with, everything AI coming in. Receiving those spammy messages, the copy and paste messages that know nothing about you or your business, and it shows that it's either a bot or it's somebody that's not taken the time to actually understand you and your business, I think people are becoming less tolerant of. So what's really, really important to me, and something that I teach my lead generators as well, who work with our clients, is to speak to people as if they're a friend, somebody that you want to get to know. Remember where they went on holiday last week and ask them how it was. Remember about their children, their ages, their names. It's about that human connection and about that deep understanding of what it is that people need so that we can serve them. Yeah. So I think for me, those are the top two things at the moment that are really important to us, and I think should be important to everybody else: the consistency and that personalization and human connection as part of the lead generation.
Absolutely. So consistency being obviously making sure that you're doing it consistently. I mean, I always say to my clients, do at least 20 minutes every day. You've got to be doing the lead plan. If you can do an hour, then amazing. You'll win.
Yeah.
But not
it's boring though.
Can do that.
It's boring though, Kayleigh. And I think this is where people stumble, because it's going through a list of people. And I think people find, oh, I can't be bothered to do that. I'm going to do something exciting on Canva, or, I'm going to go to this glitzy event. But actually, at the event, when you're speaking to people, follow up with them afterwards.
Yes. Yeah.
We want to do all of those exciting things, but the real work and the real connections comes from the actual follow-up and the conversations.
Yeah, the follow-up and the conversations and such. And I think as well with this sort of consistency, and we're talking about follow-up, and I know we can go into a little bit more detail with that. But one thing that I think is always really important as well is talking about the quality of leads, because you can have so many conversations with people, and I think it's always a fantastic starting point, isn't it? Like, actually have a conversation, be human, don't be a robot, all of these things. And that's fantastic to kind of kickstart things up, right? And then when we're talking about the quality, I mean, how would you define a quality lead? What does that actually look like and mean to someone?
I think it depends on what the business is. So it's somebody that has the problem that the particular business solves. So if let's say I was working with a sleep consultant, and they were talking to potential clients, they were kind of chatting to leads, and the child was actually sleeping fine, or the problem wasn't that bad, that's not going to be somebody that's going to buy from you. So it's about understanding the problem that potential lead has and thinking, well, actually, can I help them with this? And also, are they going to be willing to put time and effort and cash into solving this problem? So what we do when we're doing lead generation is we're kind of knowing what questions to ask to uncover what's actually happening for this person, if that's a problem that they want to solve, and actually, are you able and willing to invest in this? So just trying to think of an example. Let's say, for example, one of my clients is selling a mastermind that's £10,000. If you've got somebody that's right at the start of their business journey, even though they're really willing and they're excited and they're chatting to you about their ideas and they're kind of really, really wanting the success, it's not a good match. But the only way we're going to know that is from having those conversations and asking those questions. So it's not necessarily what makes a quality lead, it's knowing what makes a quality lead for that particular business or service. Yeah. And again, it's understanding who that ideal client is for that particular service.
Yeah. So really understanding who the ideal client is, and then understanding more as you sort of go through the conversations, who the person is that you're speaking to. So pre-qualifying them with questions, set questions that's going to really support and help them to quite simply go, are they a good fit or are they not? Yeah. Amazing. Absolutely. Now, for example, there will probably be people listening to this podcast that aren't doing a lot of lead generation, or, you know, we are often sold, and I'm going to say this on the podcast because I can. A lot of people out there are still selling the dream of you post content, the clients are going to drop into DMs in an hour, and happy days, you're going to sign clients and hit 10K, 20K, whatever on earth they want to achieve. Yeah. Fantastic. It can happen, but we know that at the moment in 2025, we still need to be having clear strategies for lead generation. So if there are people listening and thinking, okay, well, I'm doing my content and I thought that was lead generation, but I appreciate that I probably need to do a little bit more. What is a lead generation system? What does it look like, a strategy or a system? I think let's just kind of break it down for people so they can know exactly what they need to do.
It's a really good question. And again, it's not particularly a one size fits all, because it could be for some people who've got, let's say, a business that's in a local area, it's actually getting out there and flyering, or going out to have, just trying to think of an example, a stall at a school fete or something like that, to have conversations with people. If it's a big online business, it could be followers, it could be getting into masterminds and memberships and working on kind of getting in front of the right people and then inviting them back into your world. There's lots and lots of different visibility strategies out there. What I would say then, where the lead generation starts, is where somebody shows even just the slightest sniff of an interest in what you're doing. It stops being about visibility and marketing and attracting the right people, and then it becomes lead generation. So it could be a follow, it could be a lead magnet download, it could be somebody coming over to talk to you at your stall at the school fete. But that is when that person has raised their hand and said, I could potentially be interested, and that's where we start the conversations and we invite that person further into our world, and we start to qualify them, and we start to move them through the funnel, essentially. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And I think it's really good to kind of see, like, how do you really start that lead generation process as such? Because again, you know, content is a great starting point, 100%. And you can do a lot of attraction marketing. You know, I talk about positioning and messaging that can convert on its own, and it really, really can. But I always believe that, yes, it's really also really important to have a clear lead generation strategy as well, because it does work alongside it. So no, absolutely, that will really, really help. And so, for example, this is something that I've heard a number of times where sort of people have said, well, I've exhausted my leads, like I haven't got any more leads. What do they then need to do?
It's all about getting in front of new people, and this is a problem that we see across the board. It's really hard to get in front of people, especially for people who are relying on social media. The algorithms are constantly changing. We constantly needing to reach new people, and I think that in 2026, things like in-person events are actually where people are going to be making the most of those connections, and people are going to be wanting that deeper relationship. So I think it's about thinking outside the box, and it's not just relying on, like you said, the attraction marketing, the posting, the content marketing. Let's think about what other things we could do. Let's not just give up and say, well, I've stalled. Let's think about, okay, should I do a podcast? Shall I start writing a blog? Let's learn about SEO. Let's get into the right rooms. There's always more to learn. There's always new things we can be doing to get in front of new people. It could be that if somebody's messaging is really working well organically, okay, perhaps they want to explore putting some money into paid advertising. Let's not forget all of the kind of grassroots marketing as well. Let's not forget putting flyers up, putting leaflets through people's doors. There's all of this stuff that before, the 2020s, that's obviously going back a bit further than that, I'm sure. I'm not saying the online world has only been around since the pandemic, but you know what I mean, though? It's not just about online marketing. Businesses existed before online and before social media. So let's explore different ways of getting in front of people. And yeah, hopefully I've named a good sort of 5 or 10 there that people can be looking at.
Yeah, I think that's great advice in terms of getting in front of new people, and always just thinking about that. I think you're right. I always say to my clients, think about visibility and lead generation working really, really well together. So if we're looking at podcasts, absolutely, I always encourage people. I say to my clients, I say, make sure you're applying for podcasts and you're reaching out to people. You're seeing if people are in need of speakers, guest speakers. You're, creating different types of content, and not just for the usual Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Are there other things you can do? Can you create a YouTube channel? There are so many different ways, aren't there, to get visible, to connect with people, to meet people, there's so many opportunities. I love the fact that you said a book as well, because wow, that is an incredible, I'm going to call it a lead magnet, but it's an incredible, what's the word that it is?
It's kind of like a start. It's not necessarily a lead magnet, but it's almost like a starter, a low ticket entry into somebody's world, isn't it? And again, getting things like that out there. I know some of my clients have kind of given away a book and you just pay the postage. So it is essentially a lead magnet, isn't it?
Yeah. And
there's so many ways. And I really think that we get stuck in the trap of just thinking, well, I can just do some bits on Canva and post it on Instagram and the clients will come. And like you said, I think a lot of people have been sold that dream, haven't they?
They've been sold the dream. And I think it is a case of really understanding when we look at the foundations of business and we look at any business, and like you said, going back in, sort of a decade or even 2 decades, you look and you think the foundations of business, people always are going to need to market. They're going to need to obviously do lead generation, get visible, and actually have an entire, sales system and ecosystem, as I call it. So it all works together. We can't just post content and call that a business strategy. It's not.
Yeah. And again, looking at things that are happening in the world right now, AI, the introduction of AI into everything that we do, I keep going back to this, but having that human connection with people is going to matter more than it has ever done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I bet there's a lot of listeners, and I've definitely received them, I'm sure you have, Daisy, where we receive these really icky or very roboty messages in our DMs. I probably get about 10 to 20 every day, every single day.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they're a real human, to be honest. And I don't even mean by a bot, but it's just so icky and so I don't like it at all.
And do you reply?
You don't.
Exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, it's so if somebody had said to you, tell me about your business. I noticed you do this. What made you decide that you were going to go into this? And they're asking you questions about you and your business. And it doesn't feel like, oh, if I tell them, they're just going to straight away sell to me. That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah. Showing interest, showing curiosity in other people's businesses and lives. And I always find it fascinating. I love finding out people's stories.
Same.
I'm always fascinated by how people became entrepreneurs, because obviously my ideal clients are entrepreneurs. So I'm going to have conversations about how did they get to where they are? What is their why, their purpose, their vision? I love finding out that sort of thing. But I also like finding out about their lives. What interests them? What are their hobbies? Do they have children? Do they have a dog? Who knows? And it's always great. And it's, it's again, that basic human connection.
Yeah.
And the conversations that you would have if you saw someone, like you said, at an event.
Yes, exactly. And you wouldn't go up to somebody. Yesterday, I received something about a fragrance network marketing company. Yeah. And I couldn't believe it. This person, so it was on a WhatsApp. This person I'd not spoken to for a long, long time. There wasn't even a hello, how are you? And the worst thing for me, and I posted this on my stories actually on Instagram, was that it was very clearly copied and pasted from a Facebook or an Instagram post, because at the bottom it said, drop me a comment or reply to this with a DM. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, it's just say hello to me, ask me what my plans are for Christmas, and then maybe say, actually, I'm doing this now, would you like to have a look? And I might have even said yes. So sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but what you were saying actually about getting to know people and their stories, that's how you and I connected, didn't we? And we realized that we'd both been teachers in a past life.
Exactly.
So I feel like you and I haven't been chatting together for that long, but actually I know quite a bit about your life already.
Yeah, it's really is a great opportunity, isn't it, to really connect with people, and you never know where that stems from there or goes from there. You know, that's such a great opportunity for people, you know, for anyone listening to the podcast right now. If you're thinking, oh yeah, I've had quite a few conversations with people and sort of shown interest in them, who knows where that could lead to? They will then have in their mind maybe that if they need a certain person for a certain thing, they can reach out to you and obviously ask about the services or the products or whatever you sell. So it's a really, really great point. And I want to dive into, I know we sort of touched on it a couple of minutes ago, but lead magnets, we mentioned a book and we kind of said, well, it kind of can work as a lead magnet. It's a great opportunity to kind of share people's stories, thoughts, you know, whatever it is, narratives that we want to share. But I want to talk about lead magnets because I always see a lead magnet as part of the lead generation strategy. In your personal opinion, what are your thoughts on them? Are they still relevant? How can we really use them as part of that lead generation strategy?
They are relevant. They are useful and helpful if they're done in the right way.
Nice.
If it's just you deciding, oh my gosh, I need to have an email list, I need to put a lead magnet out there, what can I do? Let's stick this PDF out there, and then do nothing else with that or any leads that come in from it, then no, there's no point whatsoever. But if it's something that kind of almost starts that, I want to say ecosystem, but I don't know if that's the right word, but it brings people into your world. It gives them a taste of what you're about. It teaches them something they can get value from. And it's kind of almost the bottom rung of the ladder in getting to know you and your services. Then yeah, absolutely, I think they are. I think the classic PDF, it's relevant in some circumstances. I'd say probably more so for B2C than B2B. People just want to know how to do X, Y, and Z. They're going to quickly download something, off they go. For somebody like me, I probably haven't got time to be watching a 3-part series on whatever it might be. So therefore, a lead magnet I'm going to give you this mini course. I'm probably going to be a bit like, I haven't got time to watch that. I'm never going to watch it. And that's a waste of the person's time who I'm downloading it from as well, because they think I'm a lead and actually I'm never going to watch it. Whereas things like podcasts, I mean, would we call them a lead magnet? Don't know. But actually, if somebody is downloading your podcast and listening to it, I'm thinking, wow, this person really knows her stuff. Kayleigh is an amazing entrepreneur. I want to know more about her. That's going to bring them into your world. The difference is, I guess, that you don't grab somebody's email address from a podcast subscriber. But it's still a magnet for leads.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about being creative and thinking outside the box, isn't it? Because the amount of PDFs, masterclasses, challenges that we see all the time, and I'm very much, as you probably know, so I'm known for Evergreen, and obviously I've been teaching Evergreen since 2022. So it's been a massive, massive part of my entire business model. And now I teach and support people with it. And I, again, will often share with my clients and sort of help them and support them with creating evergreen lead magnets.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important as well, to have something that's creative, thinking a little bit outside the box. Or I always say to people, if you can have something that either no one else has done, if you can do that, amazing. I know it's a little bit challenging nowadays, especially with lead magnets, or just really be creative with it and have some fun. If you can have some fun with that, it will really support you and help you in standing out. And like you said, you know, podcasts, although, okay, there's loads of other people doing podcasts, but give it a creative spin, you know, do something that people aren't doing, or, you know, really lean into something that you're really passionate about, that you want to talk about, and make it phenomenal. Like, create something that's going to allow people to really get to know your skills, your expertise, why you're the go-to person, the iconic leader, as I say.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you on that. I think there's a lot of lead magnets that are either overdone now, and I don't want to say that, but it is true.
There's a time and the place for
Yeah,
all of these things, isn't there? There
absolutely.
absolutely is. But I love what you're saying about doing things differently and offering something else, something new. I really I've seen people recently offering kind of a 5-minute Loom video feedback on something. So you're actually getting that one-to-one time with that business owner. It's not taking them a huge chunk of time, but again, it's that human connection, isn't it? That's what is really, really prevailing. I also really like the sort of template plug and play type things that people can actually start using rather than necessarily learning about and then implementing themselves. But there's so much out there. Just going back to what we were talking about 5 minutes or so, there are so many ways to be visible. It's just having the courage,
Yes,
the creative thinking to go out there and do them.
Yeah.
And then have the conversations to follow up with people that actually want the stuff.
Exactly that. Yeah. So we've kind of talked a lot about, what does that lead generation strategy kind of look like? What, how can we bring people in? What are the conversations that we have? So we've talked and given, some great tips and ideas in terms of how we can make this work. Now, there's one thing that I would always say is something that's a little bit of a challenge to some people, and it's the nurturing.
Yes.
So you can bring leads in, you can use lead magnets, you can spark conversations, you can ask them about their dog, their day, their summer, their Christmas, whatever you want to do that's going to spark the conversation. 9 times out of 10, it will always work. It will work most of the time. And then we get to a point where maybe it's not the right time for them. Maybe they haven't got the investment, and again, we're not going to dive into objection handling today, but nurturing, because I know, and I know you know, that the nurturing time scale at the moment is a little bit longer. We have to build that trust for a little bit longer. Are there any tips or strategies or advice that you can give for our listeners to support them with continuing that nurturing strategy as such?
I think the number one tip I would say is to give value. What I would hate to see is a constant, let's say you decide you're going to follow up with people on a weekly basis or whatever that looks like for your business. What I would hate to see is every week, do you want that call yet? Are you buying? Are you buying? Are you buying? Are you? Because it's going to put that person straight off. And of course, yes, you're a business owner, and at the end of the day, you want people to buy if it's right for them. But you don't necessarily want to be seen that person is only cash flow for you. You want them to feel like they matter. So everything we do should be adding value. So it could be that you've then, so they're not ready yet, or they're ghosting you or something, which happens all the time. Next time you're running a masterclass that you feel like is going to add value to that person's life, whether or not they buy from you, invite them to it, tell them about it, tell them what they're going to get from it. If you see something that reminds you of that person or the conversation you had or about their business, drop them a message and say, oh my gosh, I was just thinking of you today, because you're adding value. You're letting that person know that you are thinking of them and that they are valued as part of your community, whether or not they're going to buy from you right now. I've had it before in other businesses where there's been kind of a whole year plus sales cycle, and you might feel like, oh my gosh, I cannot send this person any more messages. I cannot have any more discovery calls with this person. But just keep offering them the opportunity, because I tell you this, when the time is right, you are going to be at the top of their mind, that if they are going to buy this thing, it's going to be you that they buy from, because you are the one that has bothered to keep in touch.
Yeah. And keep it friendly.
Of course.
Always show interest in that individual, and as an individual, right? Again, none of this copy and paste. It's always nice to check in with people, but to show a bit of interest. So if the last conversation you had was about, I don't know, their gorgeous holiday away in the summer, check in, ask them how their holiday was,
Totally.
really follow on from that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then it feels a lot more natural when you do have something to sell or something to invite them to, whether it's free or paid, because you've already got those open channels of communication. It's not going to feel to them like, oh my gosh, where has this come from? Which it can do if you've literally, let's say you're collecting followers, for example, on Instagram, you've got 10,000 followers, not one of them has ever heard from you. When you've then got something to sell, it's going to be weird if they just message you and say, do you want to buy this? Have the conversations, know who it's going to be right for, and then it's that constant open conversation. But it takes time and consistency, doesn't it, to do that? And I think that is where a lot of people fall down when they're busy running their businesses, delivering the services. These conversations that might not be leading to sales right this minute, that's what tends to drop off.
Yeah, great. And what about tracking? Because I think this is
my favorite thing to talk about.
How do we track our lead generation? I'd love to know your thoughts.
Yes, I love Airtable. It's something I've only been using this year because I thought, oh, it's this big scary thing. I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. And I actually do have an Airtable lead tracker template as well on offer. If people would like that, please get in touch about that. But I love Airtable because you can log every single interaction with every lead. And then when you go into an overview of that person, you can actually see how many touch points they've had, where those touch points have been, what you've offered them, and you can even, if you've got a brain like a sieve and you want to log where they've been on holiday, reminder to ask them about it, by all means do that. But it allows you to put things like follow-up dates in. So, on a Monday, I'm going to follow up with this list of people. For somebody like me that, has multiple notebooks with lots of names and to-do lists scribbled in, having an Airtable specifically for lead generation, oh my goodness me, it's a game changer for me. But it then does allow you to look at things like, what platform are people coming from? What is the percentage of people that I've had a conversation with versus that have a call with me? Then what percentage of people buy? And because once you know that, you can then reverse engineer that and think, well, if I need X amount of calls to make X amount of sales, how many conversations do I need to be having in order to book those calls in?
Yeah, perfect.
And like I said, we've said it is about quality. It absolutely is about quality, because number of messages you've sent is a bit of a vanity metric, really, if they're not leading to conversations. But on the flip side, it is also a numbers game. The more conversations you have, the more likely you are to, make the sales further down the line.
Exactly. Sales is a numbers game. It really is.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, you're absolutely right. And, often when my clients sort of hold events, and I know this is sort of looking at the sort of the lead magnet side of things to an extent. But again, I always say it is a numbers game. If you're wanting to make X sales, you work it backwards and say, well, how many people do you need at that event? How many people do you need to have signing up? So how many people do you need to reach out to or attract through that process? It's the same as lead generation as such, isn't it? Overall, if you're doing like an evergreen strategy. So it really does matter. It matters a lot. Okay. And then in regards to, because we're talking about numbers, because I'm really intrigued to see what you would recommend to our listeners. Mm-hmm. Is there a certain amount of people that you think that every entrepreneur should try to reach out to every day when it comes to lead generation?
So what we aim for with our clients is to speak to 100 people a week.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. I understand that is a lot. But if you'd look at it like this, right? So if you think you might have past clients or past inquirers that you can reach out to, you could do maybe 5 a day. Who's watching your stories and therefore interested in what you've got to say? There's probably going to be 10 or 20 of those a day you can reach out to. Who's clicking on your emails? Who is following you? Who's commenting on your Facebook posts? Who has attended a talk that you did? Actually, when you add all of those things together, 100 doesn't seem like a huge amount. It can vary huge. It can vary massively, though. And what we like to do is kind of test what sorts of maybe questions are working. So, if we ask a particular type of open question, what sort of a result is that going to get? And actually, if that's not landing very well, we need to think about, maybe the language that we're using, and maybe the messaging that in terms of like what am I trying to say? Yeah, I suppose it is about the questions and the wording of those questions and the message that that's giving off. If we're sending that to people as part of our conversations, if we're not getting the responses back, we need to do something about that. And again, it comes down to data. So we aim for about 100 a week. Sometimes it can be a lot more if we're in a kind of either a launch or a push for an evergreen service, or it could be fewer because for whatever reason it's been a slower week. So, but yeah, 100 is a nice round number, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great number. And again, when we look at it from the perspective of potentially having 100 conversations, or at least starting 100 conversations a week, you're then looking at 400 a month. And oh my goodness, let's do
massive.
Let's look at the data and the numbers. And you think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Absolutely. I saw something recently though. So on the other side of this, I saw something recently where some service was offering to start 4,000 conversations a month.
4,000. Wow.
4,000. And I was like, first of all, how do you even do that? Surely, I'm quite sure that on, especially LinkedIn, for example, there are limits to how many connection requests you can make. There's a limit to how many messages you can send a day on Instagram, on Facebook. So first of all, how is that actually being done? And second of all, either somebody's spending 24/7 on this, or it's very much a copy and paste, spammy, or even an automated message that's going out, which again, if that works for somebody, absolutely crack on. But for me, that's not how I would want to do things.
No, I'm exactly the same. Like we said, it always goes back to that one of the first conversations we had on this podcast, personal connection, those conversations, isn't it? And really making sure that you're speaking to the individual. Yeah, I must admit, I mean, 4,000 is a lot, but it must be some kind of automation. I'm assuming
as well. I didn't look too much into it, so I was like, no thank you, don't even want to go there, stay in your lane, Daisy.
And that could be really interesting, because then you could probably go out to all kinds of people that potentially might not even be ideal clients. So it doesn't I think let's stick to the personal conversations. And 100 a week is a fantastic target.
Absolutely.
And if you're just listening to this, think, oh my goodness, 100 a week, break it down, or maybe even say, I say to my clients as well, if they're sort of doing the starting off point with lead generation, say do 10 conversations a day.
Yeah, and that's 50.
Start there Monday to Friday, that's 50. Let's do 50 a week, just 10.
Exactly. And I think that's actually really, really doable. If we're looking at the types of things that could make that up, I think that's doable. And don't forget, the kinds of clients that we're working with on a done for you basis are going to be more established entrepreneurs. They've probably got a bigger audience. Okay. So just because we're aiming for 100 doesn't mean that everybody has to do that. I think 10 a day is fantastic if you're kind of quite early on in the journey.
Yeah, fantastic. What is your final piece of advice then, Daisy, for our listeners today?
Okay. This is going to sound ridiculous, like a really broad and silly thing to say, but just do it. Just have the conversation, sit down at your desk, open up your preferred method of choice. I think Instagram's my favorite. I'm going to say Instagram. Open it up and just make a list, or just start reaching out to people and start a conversation with them. Maybe do a bit of research on them first, but just start the conversation. And I know for a lot of people, the getting started bit is hard, isn't it?
Yes.
But don't overthink it. Just speak as if you are speaking to a friend, and just have the conversations. Yeah. And if they don't lead to anything, they don't lead to anything, but just have the conversations.
Do it. Have the conversations. Reach out to those people. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do it. There we go. So I'm hoping that everyone listening to this conversation that we're having today, this podcast episode, that your next thing to do, if you're driving at the moment, obviously don't do this while you're driving, but make sure that you reach out to at least 10 people today to spark your lead generation strategy. Or if you know lead generation, you've been doing it lots before, let's have a little look at that next steps for you, and ultimately how to grow even further, and give yourself the best opportunity to, of course, convert more sales. Daisy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the podcast. Where can all of our listeners connect with you and find you?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you very much for having me. I've really loved speaking to you. So I'm on Instagram at I am Daisy Ferns. You can connect with me, Daisy Ferns, on Facebook, or my website is daisyferns.co.uk. Nice and simple. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I know we could talk about lead generation for hours. I really do. But I thought let's really give some great strategies and some tips in terms of how people can kind of really lean into this. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
All of Daisy's links are in the show notes. So go and connect with her, give her a follow, reach out to her. She has some incredible services done for you. And obviously she's got some exciting things coming next year. So let's keep our eyes peeled for that. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I want to thank everyone for tuning into today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast. And I'll see you all again next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur Podcast with me, your host, Kayleigh Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow and scale your dream 6-figure or multi-6-figure business, then head to our website now for more information or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.